Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kieran, of course, from Red Devil Weekly, and we're here to preview yet another huge game in Manchester United season. The last game has been and gone, not the result we would have wanted, but we are back in action, and it's going to be the theme of the next couple of weeks for Manchester United. The games come thick and fast. There's no time to feel sorry for ourselves. We've got to pick ourselves back up and go again. And this is a fairly big one in terms of trophies. The first leg of our semi-final of the EFL Cup is played at the City Ground. We'll be taking on Nottingham Forest, and we'll be talking about that in this stream. If you're watching as a video on the replay, thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. Hit that like button if you did enjoy the video or do enjoy the video, and also leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I always enjoy reading your comments, so please do leave your predictions and anything at all in the comment section down below. And also, if you are new to the channel, we have had some recent subscribers. Thank you so much for joining the community. If you are new around here, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you do wish to see more of my face and my dulcet tones on the channel. So now I got all that out of the way, let's see if anyone has joined us thus far. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We're going to get straight into Nottingham Forest because we always like to talk about the opposition, and Forest this season have kind of done what's expected and actually somewhat overachieved from where a lot of people thought. I mean, yes, everyone thought the Forest were going to be down the bottom of the table, and you know, in all fairness, they are currently 13th, but they are well above what a lot of people expected, I have to say. After 20 games, 21 points, you know, it's a weird season down the bottom with the likes of Everton and Southampton occupying 2 of the 3 relegation spots. Wolves obviously were massively down there, West Ham as well. So actually for the newly promoted clubs, barring Bournemouth who are still in the relegation zone, it's been a pretty good season for the newly promoted clubs, I should say. And Forest this season have been, you know, probably by Forest fan standards, you know, fairly decent. But obviously, you know, it's so bunched up in that kind of bottom half of the table that whilst Forest have 21 points, they're still only 6 points or 7 points, I should say, even less, 5 points, I should say, above the drop zone. So that ultimately tells you how close it is in that bottom half of the table. A couple of poor results here and there, and you could find yourself dragged right back into it. So Forest this season have not been too bad, and I think, you know, their fans would be fairly happy if the table stayed as it was. I think they'd be over the moon, actually. Staying up in the Premier League really is their priority this season, and to finish 13th on your first season back in the Premier League in, what, over 20 odd years, it's a very, very good achievement and something which Steve Cooper can be very proud of. But still a half of the season to go, so still a long way to go yet. Will his team be able to last out? Adam, thanks for joining, appreciate it, hope you're doing well. And TTX, thanks for joining, always good to see you. He says, good evening, hopefully we get Southampton tonight after today. Well, I was watching the game, and actually the other game in the EFL Cup, Southampton hosting Newcastle, is going on right now. I watched the first half, and both teams seemed to struggle to break each other down. I thought Newcastle had the better chances, but Southampton came on to Newcastle and caused a few problems. I do think Newcastle's defence is a lot stronger, but you know, it's an even game so far, so it'll be interesting to see who goes through in that one. Obviously, TTX has hoisted his flag next to Southampton, saying he'd want Southampton in the next round should we get through, and it's not a given that we're going to get through this game. Yes, obviously, you know, we're massive favourites to beat Nottingham Forest over 2 legs, and I do think we will beat Nottingham Forest over 2 legs, but you know, you cannot take anything for granted, especially in these cup competitions. Anything can happen, and it's all about who turns up on the day. So we've got to be sharp, we've got to be aware. But thanks for joining, appreciate it. Adam says you are now able to do Red Devil Weekly. I try, mate, I'm trying this year. I'm trying to get more content out. I'm trying to live up to the name. Yeah, we're doing all right this year so far. Hopefully, long may it continue. TTX also says, anyone else feel frustrated with the window activity? Other teams around us are strengthening and we haven't. Yeah, I think a lot of United fans are feeling the same way, TTX. I think you're not alone in that thinking. We've obviously brought Weghorst in, which I think was necessary in terms of plugging the gap we have at number 9 spot, especially now that Martial is injured. But in the same way, I think we need to be shrewd with who we bring in. You know, Chelsea right now are employing a very scattergun approach, and to be fair, some of the signings they've made look fairly good. You know, Felix looked pretty good for the 50, 60 odd minutes that he was on the pitch, and Murdoch, you know, I think I butchered that name, by the way. I do apologise if anyone was offended by that. But he came in and he looked very, very good for the time he came on against Liverpool. So there's some promising signs there for some of the signings that Chelsea have made. And obviously Trossard came on for Arsenal and I thought he was really good. So, you know, the January impact is such a big thing, especially in a season like this one where we're going to be playing 3 games a week. You need to have that squad depth. So I think from that perspective, yeah, I'm a bit disappointed we maybe haven't brought more players in to kind of strengthen our squad, even if they're not starters, just to kind of give us that squad depth, especially when you look at the fact that we're going into a period where we're going to be playing 3.5 games a week on average, or play a game every 3.5 days, on average. We're going to be playing Barcelona, home and away. Obviously, we've got Nottingham Forest, home and away. We've got an FA Cup time between then. Leeds, you know, we play Leeds twice. So it's a very sticky period for us. And if that squad depth doesn't come through for us, it's going to be a very poor period of results if we're not careful. So we've got to make sure that we are shrewd in the window. And obviously, there's not a lot of time left. What are we, the 24th, going on the 25th of January, so only 5-6 days left of the window to go. So I don't see many signings being brought in, but that's just me. And Box, thanks for joining, appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Red Devil Daily, we're trying, Box, we're trying, but thanks for joining, mate. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, I'm not agreeing to any bets, Adam. I'm not agreeing to any bets. I'm definitely not doing that on camera. But yeah, obviously Forest, we talked a little bit about them. A bit of injury news actually. Taiwo Awoniyi, who has been their forward man this season. Obviously, they brought in Gibbs White, but Awoniyi's been their number 9 for the majority of the season. He won't be available for this game if the team news I've been reading before the stream is anything to go by. Apparently, he's injured and he joins an injury list that Nottingham Forest has had, a bit of a mounting injury list. So the fact that Awoniyi won't be playing for them, I think, is a big boost because he's obviously scored against, you know, big 6 teams. Obviously scored against Liverpool in their win earlier in the season, and he obviously is a big player for Nottingham Forest style of play and the way they want to go about winning games. So I think it's a big miss for them, and in some ways a positive for us that they're not. He's not available for their team, but they've still got a few players to worry about, namely former United Academy member Jesse Lingard. He'll be wanting to prove a point. He actually came off injured in the game he played at Old Trafford. Wasn't the Old Trafford return that he would have wanted, but you know, he's definitely motivated to get one over on his former club. I'm sure you guys saw his appearance on Diary of a CEO on that podcast. He didn't speak very highly of the way he was treated at the end at Manchester United. So I'm sure that sort of thing, you know, will light a fire in his belly every time he steps on the field to play us. Obviously, you know, he doesn't have too many hard feelings towards the fans or anything like that, but the way the club dealt with him, it's going to stick in your mind. You know, when you're wronged in any situation, you always carry it. You always remember it. You might forgive, but you never forget. And, you know, Jesse Lingard is going to be fired up and wanting to knock Manchester United out of the cup. Of course, Dean Henderson won't be available for Nottingham Forest. He's obviously cup tied, and the only way he was able to play was if both clubs agreed on it, but I don't think that was ever going to happen, especially because Man United know how good of a goalkeeper Dean Henderson can be. So I'm sure that was never going to be agreed, and obviously Dean Henderson's not going to be between the sticks. I think it's going to be Wayne Hennessy, who we had in goal for us at Old Trafford when we beat them 3-0, and to be honest with you, he was poor. He was poor in that game. So that does fill me with a little bit of confidence in terms of the fact they won't have their first choice goalkeeper, and we've seen how he can, well, he's not as reliable as Henderson has been, does fill me with confidence that we will be able to score the goals that we need to safely take us through this tie. But of course, we've talked a little bit about their threats. One of the threats I haven't mentioned is Brennan Johnson. He's been one of the main reasons why they got promoted to the Premier League. And this season, even though he's probably not hit the heights in terms of goal scoring, he's looked very, very threatening. I thought in the game at Old Trafford, he caused a lot of problems for our fullbacks. So he's someone who I would look out for, and I'd probably look at him as their main threat, along with Lingard and Gibbs-White. But they do have threat. The one thing that obviously Forest aren't known for is their defending. This season already, they've conceded 35 goals in the league, which, gives them a minus 19 goal difference. It's not brilliant. I have to say, it's not brilliant. It's probably up there with one of the worst records in the league in terms of goals conceded. I think actually they've got the second or third worst defensive record in the league. So, these are all stats that do fill me with confidence that over 180 minutes, United will be able to be too good for them. And hopefully, if we're clinical enough, we'll create enough chances to put ourselves through. But, as I said, this is not simple. Football is not a simple game. Yes, I know some people say that, football is a simple game, but it really isn't, especially in the Cup. Football's not played on paper and all those cliches. So we've got to be careful. We really do have to be careful. But Forest do have a lot of strengths, but they also have a lot of weaknesses to exploit. But a little bit about Forest there. We talked a little bit about the opposition. Let's talk about Manchester United, shall we? Because it's been a funny old week in the life of a Manchester United fan. 2 games in the last week, 2 results that we wouldn't have hoped for. A draw against Crystal Palace, a last-minute free kick from Elise, snatching defeat from the jaws, snatching a draw from the jaws of victory for Manchester United, and a game at which we kind of fell off in the second half. We just didn't really create enough. And then the Arsenal game, which, once again, the first half was very encouraging. I thought we had a lot more of the ball than I thought we were going to have, and I thought we kind of spooked Arsenal a little bit. I don't think they expected us to be as good as we were in the first half, but in the second half, I think Arsenal had a lot more of the ball, they had a lot more of the control, and they proved to come out on top in the end, probably deservedly as well. So, it's a bit of a weird time as a United fan, because whilst we've been having this amazing run heading into those 2 games, the results didn't go our way. And I think you look at it and you look at the progress we've made, and it's difficult because, ultimately, you have to acknowledge where we've come from. But at the same time, I think it is disappointing that we didn't get 3 points in at least one of those 2 games. And that is something which maybe was a little bit of a reality check in terms of where we are truly. But sometimes reality checks, they're not the worst thing to have in the world. Sometimes you need to be able to say, okay, this is where we are, this is where we need to improve, and hopefully that result against Arsenal and against Crystal Palace can be a little bit of a kick up the butt that we need. Let's see, a few more comments coming in. Boxes predicted 11 goes Heaton, Lindelof, Maguire, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Fred, Fernandes, Rashford, Garnacho and Palestri. So a little bit of rotation, particularly in the defence, with Varane sitting out and also Wan-Bissaka sitting out. Heaton, of course, coming in for David De Gea. And Garnacho and Palestri starting in that front 3. I wouldn't be against that team. I'll give you my predicted starting 11 in a few moments. But I wouldn't be against that team. I think we do need to look at rotating. I think it's going to be a very difficult period. As I said, 3.5 days per game, in the next couple of 2 or 3 weeks. It's not going to be one that the players are going to fancy too much. It's hard work. It's going to be tired legs, about rest and recovery, how well you can recover after each game. And I think our squad depth is going to be massively tested. So, it's a big time for not only the players, but for Erik ten Hag. And a potential opportunity to reach a Wembley final in his first season as manager, and a big opportunity to win the whole thing as well. So, massive for Ten Hag that. It's so vital, in my opinion, that he wins a trophy, because we've had managers come and go. The last 3 managers haven't been able to deliver silverware, and I think it's starting to get very, very difficult for Manchester United fans to take, really. You know, if we don't win a trophy this year, it's 6 years without a trophy. And listen, we're not owed a trophy. No one is owed success. No one is owed trophies. You know, you have to earn it. But, you know, we want to start winning. You know, this club was built on winning. You know, we're about winning trophies. Success is measured in the silverware you have in the cabinet. So, you know, it's massive for Ten Hag, for the confidence that the fans will have in him, but also the players will have in Ten Hag if he does win a trophy. I think it will just bring the squad closer together. But we've got to get through this 2-legged tie first, and it's not going to be straightforward. Oh, don't worry. Yeah, I'm almost reading the comments with my side eye. It's actually pretty funny. Bit of a pop quiz going on in the comments. But, you know, listen, I feel like, you know, in terms of a starting 11, I think what Box mentioned with his starting 11 here, if we go up, what he mentioned with his starting 11, I don't think is too far wrong. I do think we'll see some rotation. I think I'm fairly happy with that. I'm not sure about Lindelof at right back, although obviously Dalot is injured, and Martial as well, still sidelines. Ten Hag confirmed it in his press conference this afternoon that both of them won't be available for the game. Obviously, Sancho is still getting back to full fitness, but it's great to see him back in training, great to see him back in England, and hopefully we'll see a different animal when he steps back onto that pitch. But he is still getting back to fitness, so that still needs to be sorted out. I do think that if I was going to predict the 11, I think we will see Jack Butland in goal rather than Tom Heaton. Because ultimately, if we don't see Jack Butland in a Man United shirt this season, then why do we buy him? I feel like that would be a massive cock-up from the Manchester United board and ownership to allow a signing like that to happen and then not to give him any minutes. That would just be criminal, in my opinion. And you know, ultimately, this is why Jack Butland's been brought in to play these sort of games and to help the rotation with David De Gea. So I think we will see Jack Butland in goal. I would love to see Pellistri start. I thought when he came on against Charlton, I thought he was brilliant. You know, I thought he obviously contributed to Rashford's 2 goals towards the end. But I thought Pellistri, his ball control is so good. And whilst there's rumours that he might be going out on loan to Valencia, which, you know, fair enough. I think Pellistri knows he's not going to get too much game time this season. But he looks a player. He looks like a potential, you know, starter for Manchester United in the long run. So I'd love to see Pellistri get a start. And obviously Alejandro Garnacho as well. His record in the EFL Cup speaks for itself. Every time he's played in this competition, he's looked lively. So I would like to see him get a start. And obviously Marcus Rashford, the form he's in right now, he's almost guaranteed to get you a goal every single game. Every time he steps on the pitch, he looks dangerous. The goal he scored against Arsenal was one of our goals of the season, no doubt about it. So in terms of trying to win this game in the first leg, which I think we need to do, and I think we need to put ourselves in a commanding position going back to Old Trafford. So with that in mind, I do think we need to play a fairly strong 11, although I think some rotation is in order. But we've got decent squad depth, and hopefully throughout this 2 or 3 weeks where we are going to have quite a lot of games, it's imperative that our squad depth turns up for the test and is up for the task. That being said, let me know your score predictions in the live chat right now, ladies and gentlemen. My opinion, I don't think it's going to be an easy game whatsoever. As I said, Nottingham Forest, this is the biggest 2-legged tie they're going to have this season. I mean, they're not going to have any other 2-legged ties, but it's their biggest games of their season. I know Forest fans might be shouting at me saying, listen, we're trying to stay up this season. That's all we're trying to do. And I take the point, but this is a potential opportunity for Nottingham Forest to give their fans a trip to Wembley and a chance at winning silverware. You know, coming into the season, I don't think any Forest fan would have expected in their right mind that they were going to be anywhere close to silverware this season. So the fact they're 2 games away potentially from having a day out at Wembley and winning silverware, they're going to be up for it. They're going to be massively up for it. I think if they were like right down in the relegation zone, they would be probably looking to prioritise the Premier League a lot more. But right now, they are 5 points above the relegation zone. And yes, the picture can change very quickly in the Premier League, and we've still got half a season to go. But I just feel like Forest are going to give this everything, and their players are going to be massively motivated to try and cause a huge upset. So we have to play professionally, we have to do a professional job, and we have to go there, and I'm hoping we can do the job in the first leg. We've done it before in games. I remember actually in the Europa League, the biggest example of this was when we played Roma in the semi-final, when we won 5-6-1 or something in the first leg. And then in the second leg, it was made quite close by Roma, who, actually were probably the better side in the second leg. But the damage was done in the first leg. And I think that is so important for the mentality of the players. So I think we need to be ruthless in front of goal. But I do think that, ultimately, at the City ground, it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. It's going to be so difficult. And we've got to be careful. So let me know your score predictions. Adam goes 2-0 to Manchester United. Box goes 1-0 to Manchester United. So fairly close wins, which, you know what, I'd have to agree with. I have to go with a 2-1 win to Manchester United. That's what I'm going to go with. 2-1 win. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think United will just about get the job done, and we'll be going to Old Trafford with a lead, and I think that's the biggest thing. Go to Old Trafford where Forest have to come out and have to fight. If they can sit on a 1-0 lead or a 1-1 draw, it's going to be made a lot more difficult for us, because then we're going to have to break Forest down. So if we can go or take a lead back to Old Trafford, Forest are going to have to come out, and it's going to be very difficult for them. So that's why I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to Manchester United. I think if Rashford plays, he'll get on the score sheet, because he's just in red-hot form right now. But we need to be careful. We need to be very careful. Owen says, thanks for joining, says, why have we not let Hendo play against us if he's so rubbish? Well, no, I think he's injured, as Bok's saying, he's injured. And also, I think the two clubs had to agree on it. And I mean, they were never going to agree on it, because, why would you let someone who is still contracted to you technically potentially knock you out of a competition? That just seems strange to me. So, we need to kind of be realistic with these things, in my opinion. But yeah, Henderson was never going to play against us. So yeah, let me know any final comments, any final questions, final predictions heading into the game. Obviously, 8 o'clock start tomorrow at the City ground. It's going to be a raucous occasion. I'm telling you, it's going to be a very, very interesting game. But Forest will be up for it. As I said, I think it'll be one of the biggest games of their season. It's one of the biggest games of our season. Ultimately, winning a trophy for Manchester United is something that's eluded us for the last 6 years. We need a trophy. So I can, say that it's one of Forest's probably Forest's biggest game of the season, but it's probably our biggest game of the season so far in terms of needing to break our trophy drought. So yeah, that's my point in it. Let me know your thoughts. Rich, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Make sure to check out Rich's stream. It'll be going live after this, I believe, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already, but I'm sure you guys already have. Owen says, we will win the cup. We might draw this game and win the home game. That is more realistic from you. That's more realistic. That's more like it. Rich says, do you think we should prioritise League Cup, FA Cup, Europa, Premier League? I mean, I think you have to play the games that are in front of you, but obviously in the next 3 weeks or so, it's going to be very hectic. A game every 3.5 days. It's not something that's going to be easy for our squad to deal with, but it definitely is going to test the squad depth. I think we should prioritise the League Cup right now because, it's a chance at silverware, and, I feel like success is defined by the trophies you win. And for United to be on a trophy drought of 6 years, that needs to be ended. And we've got a massive chance of doing that in the next 3 League Cup games that we play, hopefully, if we get to the final, that is. So, I think right now, prioritising the League Cup won't go amiss. FA Cup, Europa League, Premier League. I think the FA Cup's one of those ones which we can kind of bin off, in my opinion. Especially when you consider the fact that we're going to be in the Europa League. We're playing Barcelona over 2 legs. And of course, the Barcelona game, could lead us to a run at which, you know, we could get back into the Premier League if we do win the competition. So, you know, the fact that there's a prize and that sort of incentive at the end of the tournament, I think really does give you that carrot to go for. So the Premier League is obviously your bread and butter, and you have to play your best team in the Premier League. But at the same time, I think out of all those competitions, if I had to rank them, right now, League Cup would be the first priority because it's a trophy on the line. Then Premier League, Europa League, and then FA Cup at the bottom. Those are my top 4 priorities. Yeah, keep them coming. I'll have a last few questions before we do wrap up the stream. Rich also says, are there any non-regs you'd want to see playing? It's a good question. For me, I feel like, you know, maybe some of the academy graduates. I know obviously Garnacho probably will be starting. I'd love to see Pellistri get a start, actually. I thought when he came on against Charlton, as I said, I thought he was very good. And I think he deserves an opportunity. So Pellistri, I think I'd like to see get a game. Other than that, in terms of academy, it's difficult to say. You know, maybe someone like Zidane Iqbal could get a game in midfield. But I think if I was going to get inside the head of Ten Hag, I think he will play a fairly strong 11. I think there will be a few changes. I think we'll see Jack Butland in goal. And I think defensively, Malacia will come back in. Maybe someone like Maguire or Lindelof will come back in for one of Varane and Martinez to give them a rest. But throughout the team, I don't think there's going to be kind of 8 or 9 changes. I think there might be maybe 2 or 3 changes, but I don't think it's going to be wholesale changes. So yeah, let's see. Boxers, if Yard wins that one of the best wins by UK fighter ever. Oh yeah, this is boxing. I'm not sure about boxing, but you guys keep your chat going in the live chat. But yeah, I think at this moment, you know, we've said pretty well what we've had to say going into this game. You know, it's a big game for both sides. From a United point of view, I'd love it if we could be ruthless like we were in the game at Old Trafford. Get the game done in the first leg, get the tie done in the first leg, and hopefully go into Old Trafford with a pretty significant lead. But it's not going to be easy. You know, the City ground is going to be noisy, it's going to be a difficult atmosphere, and Forest are going to want to upset the apple cart. And, you know, obviously Jesse Lingard, Brennan Johnson, these guys have got some threat, so we've got to be careful. But as I said, my score prediction, 2-1 to Manchester United. We take a 1-goal lead into the game at Old Trafford. And I'd take that. I'd honestly take that. QNTV, thanks for joining, mate. Appreciate it. Make sure to check out his channel, by the way. Great stuff over there. Always a pleasure watching and participating on his channel. So great stuff over there. Make sure to check out QNTV if you haven't already. And my score predictions, I'll end on this actually. My score prediction for the game, 2-1 Manchester United. Rashford to score anytime if he's on the pitch. And that's it. That's all I can say. United hopefully will take a 1-goal lead into that game against Old Trafford. But any lead will do. We just need to be able to be in front going into that second leg. Because if we're not, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to break Forest down. But anyway, thanks for watching. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that like button if you did enjoy the video. Subscribe to the channel as well if you are new to the community. And if you're watching on the replay, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Really appreciate all of your support on all the recent videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.